Hello everyone and welcome back to APCS Tutors. Here we are today with Chapter 3 and the Introduction to Loops. Loops is a really cool tool you're going to be using throughout your computer science career, and you really couldn't live without them, so let's get straight into it. So why do we use loops? Loops help us avoid redundancy in our code, and it also helps with efficiency in our code, but mostly we just use it to repeat operations super quickly. So there's two kinds of loops we'll be looking at. In this video, we're just going to be focusing on the first type. So we have definite loops and indefinite loops. And those two words, definite and indefinite, are basically referring to how many times the processes will get looped through. So with definite loops, we use these things called for loops. And basically that's saying for how many times will this loop run. So that's how we know it will be definite. Whereas with indefinite loops, we're continuing to loop and loop and loop until this operator becomes true. So until while that thing is true. So with the for loop, you write out a new block of code, and this is the syntax for it. So you write for with these two parentheses, and then these curly brackets as well. And then there's kind of three different zones in here you have to look at. First of all, you're just initiating a variable, which you learned how to do in the last episode. Here you have to use an int. And then this next one kind of shows how long the loop will be running. So this is where the definite section of it is. So here we know this, your code here will continue to loop through until I is, or while I is less than 5. And then this last part is showing how I increases every time it goes through the loop. So in this case, I would start at 0, your code would run, and then would pop back out to the top of the loop where I would increment to 1. Sorry, it starts at 0, and then it would increment to 1. And then it would keep going until it's greater than 5. So here's our first example. It's very straightforward. We have a simple println on the inside, which just prints out the line hello. And so here I would start at 0, and it's going to go until 3, and it's going to increment once each time. So here this would just print out hello, hello, hello. Pretty simple. And now, a really interesting part of this is you can actually access the variable that you make. Sorry, there's a car outside. You can access the variables that you implement actually within your code. So here instead of I, we're just calling it j. It starts at 0, and this loop will run until 3, and it's going to increment by 1 each time. And here it's just going to print out whatever the variable j is holding for that time through the loop. So the very first time it goes through the loop, it's going to print out 0, and then it's going to go back to the top. J is going to increment by 1, so now j is equal to 1, and so it's going to print out 1, and then its final time through the loop, it'll be 2, and it'll print out 2. And then this final example is again just showing a different case, where here you can change this less than to a less than or equal to, and you also don't have to start your variables at 0. You could start it at 1 as well. And another interesting thing is you don't have to use the convention of j++ there. You could do j plus equals, let's say, 3, and then it would increment by 3 every time until it reaches that less than or equal to 10 case. So that's for loops for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to come back with a more in-depth video on for loops, kind of explaining nested for loops, which is a for loop inside of a for loop. And we'll just help you with some code tracing problems for the AP exam. And then after that, we'll be coming out with our video on indefinite loops. So thanks for watching.